Doctors who study aging have a name for a small set of physical tests that take less than 60 seconds each, require no equipment, and predict something remarkable: how long you're likely to live and how independent you're likely to stay. These aren't obscure tests. They've been studied in tens of thousands of people, published in major cardiology and geriatrics journals, and the pattern in the data is strikingly consistent. People who can still do these five things without pain, without falling, and without help tend to be biologically younger than their birth certificate suggests. And the research shows something else too. Fewer people can do all five than you'd probably guess. Today we're going through all five. We'll explain exactly what each test measures, what the actual published research found, including real numbers, not vague claims, and how to try each one safely. We'll also be honest about which of these you should not attempt without a doctor's guidance first. Let's get into it. The first test is one cardiologist in Brazil developed decades ago called the sitting rising test. You lower yourself to sit on the floor, then stand back up, using as little support from your hands, knees, or forearms as possible. Each time you touch the floor or use a hand for support, a point is deducted from a perfect score of 10. A large study following over 4,000 adults aged 46 to 75 for an average of 12 years found something striking. People who scored a perfect 10 had a death rate of just 3.7% during the study period. People who scored between 4.5 and 7, meaning they needed real support to get up and down, had a death rate of 20.4%, and people who scored the lowest had a death rate over 42%. The lead researcher noted that age alone doesn't determine your score. His team has helped people as old as 95 improve their performance safely. Safety note: if you have hip or knee replacements, significant arthritis, or any balance concerns, do not attempt lowering yourself fully to the floor without a doctor's clearance and someone nearby. Research on this test, cited in the same cardiology literature, has found that successful completion of a 10-second one-legged stance is independently associated with better survival odds in middle-aged and older adults. It's considered a window into your neurological balance system, not just your leg strength, since staying upright on one foot requires your inner ear, your vision, and your nervous system to coordinate in real time. Safety note: always try this near a wall, countertop, or sturdy chair you can grab immediately if needed. Never attempt this alone if you have a history of falls. Grip strength has been studied extensively as what researchers call a biomarker of aging, a single number that reflects overall muscle health throughout your body, not just your hand. Multiple long-term studies, including research following adults into their late 80s and 90s, have found that people whose grip strength stays stable or improves over time have meaningfully lower mortality risk than those whose grip strength steadily declines. In one study, each yearly decline in grip strength was associated with up to a 33% increase in mortality risk in women, while people whose grip strength increased over 5 years had roughly a 31% lower risk. You don't need special equipment to get a rough sense of this. A simple check is whether you can still firmly open a stubborn jar lid or confidently shake someone's hand without your grip feeling noticeably weaker than it used to. The fourth test is your walking speed, specifically whether you can comfortably walk at around 3 feet per second or a bit faster than a slow stroll. Research on adults 66 and older has used gait speed as a predictor of hospitalization and mortality risk, with specific speed cutoffs used to identify higher-risk individuals. Walking speed is considered one of the simplest, most reliable, vital signs of aging available because it reflects cardiovascular fitness, muscle strength, balance, and even cognitive processing speed all at once. A simple way to check this yourself: time, how long it takes to walk a fixed distance like from your mailbox to your front door, at your normal pace, not rushing, just your regular walk. The fifth and final test is the 5 times chair stand. Sitting in a chair with your arms crossed over your chest, then standing up fully and sitting back down 5 times in a row, as quickly as you comfortably can without using your hands or arms for help. This is where the rarer than you think part of today's video really shows up in the data. Research tracking this specific test found that the percentage of people unable to complete it at all rises sharply with age, from about 34% of adults aged 65 to 69 to nearly 90% of adults aged 90 and above. People who cannot complete this test have been found to have roughly a 49% higher mortality risk than those who can. That means if you're in your late 60s or 70s and you can still do this cleanly, you are already outperforming a meaningful share of people your age on this specific marker. Consider someone like a 71-year-old who still gardens most weekends, gets up and down off the floor to reach the lower shelves in the pantry, and walks the dog at a normal pace every morning without stopping to rest. This is a composite picture built from the kind of functional profile described across this research, not a real person, not a testimonial, and not a guarantee about any individual's health outcome. What these 5 tests have in common is that none of them require a gym, a diagnosis, or expensive equipment to check. They're simply everyday movements, measured with a bit more attention than usual. If you tried one or more of these and it didn't go well, please hear this clearly. These are population-level research findings, not individual verdicts. They're not designed to predict any single person's future. They're patterns observed across thousands of people. Struggling with one or even several of these is common, especially with joint pain, past injuries, or conditions like arthritis, and it does not mean anything is inevitable. The encouraging part of this research is that most of these markers, grip strength, gait speed, sit-to-stand ability, have been shown to improve with structured strength and balance training, even starting later in life. The researchers behind the sitting rising test specifically noted helping people in their 90s improve their scores safely. The right next step, if any of these felt harder than expected, is a conversation with your doctor or a physical therapist, not a home workout plan built from a video. They can assess your specific joints, balance, and health conditions and build a safe plan around them. We want to be straightforward about something most videos in this space skip over. Every one of these tests is an association, not a guarantee. They're observational research findings, meaning they show a strong statistical pattern across large groups of people, not a certainty about any one individual. Someone can score poorly on one of these tests and still live a long, healthy life, and someone can score well and still face health challenges unrelated to physical function, like cancer or a cardiac event with no warning signs. These tests are also correlated with each other. Someone with strong grip strength often also walks faster and balances better, because they tend to reflect overall muscle health and nervous system function together, not 5 completely independent systems. That's useful to know, but it also means this isn't 5 separate, fully distinct risk factors stacking on top of each other in a simple additive way. The honest summary is this: these are genuinely well-studied, low-cost, equipment-free markers that geriatric medicine takes seriously as windows into functional aging. They are not a diagnostic tool, and they should be a starting point for a conversation with your doctor, not a final verdict on your own. So here's the recap. Getting up from the floor without your hands, balancing on one leg for 10 seconds, a strong and steady grip, walking at a normal brisk pace, and rising from a chair 5 times in a row without help. 5 simple, everyday movements. And according to the research we've walked through today, fewer people than you'd think can still do all 5 cleanly as they move through their 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you tried these today and did well, that's genuinely meaningful evidence-backed news about your current functional health. If a few were harder than expected, that's useful information too, worth bringing to your next doctor's visit, not something to panic over. And one more time, because it matters, please don't attempt the floor test or the balance test without something sturdy nearby. And check with your doctor first if you have any history of falls, joint replacements, or balance conditions. If this kind of research-backed breakdown is useful to you, consider subscribing. We go through published studies like this every week, always with sources, always without hype. And if you know someone in their 60s or 70s who'd be curious how many of these 5 they can still do, this might be the video worth sending them today.